Welcome to Sightings. I'm Tim White. Since she was a teenager, Beverly Ehrig has had dreams and visions of an old house and a mysterious stranger standing alone on a windswept hill. It was quite literally Beverly's dream house, and after a chance meeting in a small Maryland town, this California native discovered her dream house was real. She felt compelled, even forced, to move in. And since then, everything has changed.
When I was 16, I started having a mental picture, a vision of a large white house on a hill.
At first, they were startling flashes of thought. A white house out of phase with reality. Over time, the visions grew longer and more detailed.
I would start getting a vision of a man. Age wasn't defined at that point in the visions. It was just a gentleman. I knew that, somehow knew that he owned the house, he owned the property.
Eventually, Beverly began to fill in more and more details until the visions became a kind of waking dream.
During the dreams, I would start to see the clarity in the interior of the home. I began seeing a gentleman, a Civil War soldier. He was speaking to a young girl, I'd say maybe age 18, 19. She seemed to be very anxious, very concerned that he leave.
A drama began to unfold, one in which Beverly felt she was somehow a player. She felt an eerie connection to the woman in her dream.
Sometimes I would pick up the emotional sense of a very loving situation or a very anxious situation, and sometimes extremely sad, very tearful.
For years, Beverly kept the visions secret. She married, raised 3 children, started a sewing shop. But when the family moved to Maryland in 1996, the whole strange story came tumbling out. It started when Paul Downs offered to rent the Ehrigs, an historic house known as Plenty that Downs had inherited. The minute Beverly went inside, the line between dream and reality began to blur.
It was very shocking to me. It was alarming. I looked at him and I said, "This is the man that I had seen in the Union uniform."
Paul Downs' striking resemblance to the soldier in Beverly's dream was shocking, but no more so than her realization that this house was her dream house.
The further we went through the house, the more I realized this was actually the house that I had had the visions of prior. And coming up the driveway a little bit later, I realized this was also the visions I'd had of the home when I was 16.
Beverly felt she had to move into this house, and as soon as she did, the whole family began to experience haunting visions from another dimension.
Anyway.
On New Year's Day, we were downstairs in the music room, and it was my mother, my sister, and I. We were just reminiscing, laughing, and carrying on. We happened to look over, and a man had walked in the room. It startled all of us, and I think my heart stopped, and I just stood there.
She was very terrified at that moment, and I said, "You need to calm down." I said, "We evidently startled this person as much as they've startled us."
He was wearing a white ruffly shirt with a big ruffle collar and sleeves and a pair of dark pants, and he didn't have any feet.
And we looked up the style of the clothing, and it was the late 1700s.
Not all of the apparitions are this well defined. Beverly's husband, James, has seen ghostly, vaporous forms near an ancient oak in the front yard.
I would look over in that direction, and it would seem like a blurry object would be ducking behind the tree. And it would happen all different times a year. Everything behind it would be out of focus, like something was blocking the light. I don't know if it's out of this world or not. I just know that it wasn't natural.
In the sewing room, both Beverly and her daughter have seen brilliant lights swirl around the room, then disappear in a flash. The family dog also seems to be sensing the strange energy here.
On different occasions, he's wagged his tail and acts as though he's interacting with something that we don't see.
But one apparition in particular haunts her, the one which both Beverly and her daughter have seen.
As we came into the room, I felt almost a chill, and then a very warm sensation of someone had wrapped an electric blanket around you. It was a very, very nice feeling. And instantly got a mental picture of a woman who introduced herself as Mary.
This was the same woman who had haunted Beverly's visions since she was a teenager. Now she had a name, Mary, a name that Paul Downs discovered in land deeds from 1834.
If you go back in the deeds, there was a doctor and his wife by the name of Mary Diggs that did live in the house, Robert Diggs.
Mary and the other spirits, which the Earigs now believe are inside this house, all make their presence known through vision and sound. James has heard voices talking in hushed tones. Beverly and Alethea have heard footsteps, slamming doors, and furniture being moved. And it's not just the spirits of Mary and the soldier that want their presence known.
I was cleaning the top of the staircase and stood up and stepped back and physically bumped into someone. And it was a gentleman I had never seen before. He was dressed in, I would say, late 1700s. Of course, it's startling to realize that you have someone standing next to you that existed 200 years ago.
Was this hallucination? Had Mary transferred her visions to her family? No, she had not, because others who had lived here before had also seen and heard echoes from the past. As a boy, George Gardner lived at Plenty, and he told the Earigs they were not the first.
I would hear strange things, like I would hear the piano playing, and then at other times I would hear voices, lots of voices, like a group of people having an animated conversation, even sometimes like an argument.
George's niece, Carmel Bender, moved into the house in the late 1950s. She too heard voices and footsteps, but it was one eerie encounter on the staircase that still haunts her.
I remember feeling this something above me, and it was a male spirit hovering above me, and he asked me if I was okay.
Carmel recalls following the spirit into the master bedroom, where it was joined by another entity.
They're transparent and white, and they were talking and arguing in the master bedroom in front of the fireplace. And I finally got to see what I'd been hearing for so long.
Carmel believes she knows the identity of these spirits. One is her grandmother, Evangeline, who died in this very same bedroom under mysterious circumstances. The family was told that she'd hit her head on the bathtub, but Carmel has always doubted that this is the whole story.
There was never an autopsy done. My grandfather didn't want one done. And her death was kind of a mystery because we don't really know if she fell and hit her head. And I think that restlessness from that death may have something to do with restlessness here in the spirits that live here.
With so many separate and credible accounts, and Beverly's eerie connection to the apparitions here, Sightings has asked two renowned paranormal investigators to comb the house for answers, to use the scientific means at their disposal to draw out the haunting activity at Plenty. Beverly's house is now the site of intensive research being conducted by two eminent paranormal investigators who will try to identify the possible causes of the haunting. Al Rober, an expert in the collection of electronic voice phenomenon, will attempt to capture sound imprints on blank audio tape. He will use electromagnetic sensors to pinpoint the best recording locations.
EVP voices are actually voices that are commenting on things that are current, that are there. It's almost as if they're watching your every move. I mean, you know, you'll be doing something and they'll comment on it.
Parapsychologist Dr. William Roll will use special computer software and instruments to test for electromagnetic anomalies and other environmental factors that may be influencing the haunting here.
What's called hauntings may consist of natural occurrences.
Rober believes that because of its magnetic sensitivity, blank audio tape can pick up voices from another dimension. Rober begins by taking electromagnetic field readings and recording his findings.
You can feel a presence of someone in here.
People have reported that.
Right.
Spikes on the meter indicate possible sources for the haunting. Rober did not know that this is the location where the Erigs have seen the spirit they call Mary. But he found it with electronic equipment. He also pinpointed the location of another ghostly encounter based on his field readings. These are the locations, the master bedroom and Alethea's bedroom, where Rober will set up his EVP recording systems. These are the places where he believes the electromagnetism is ripe for haunting.
I certainly wouldn't doubt that there is activity in this house. As a matter of fact, I think there's probably strong evidence that there is.
Rober believes that a television, tuned between channels, creates a positive magnetic field that may attract the spirits. It is placed in the bedroom, where Alethea has been awakened in the middle of the night by a warm, amorphous presence.
We'd like to ask or welcome any of the entities in this house to please utilize this microphone and this tape recorder, imprint your voice on this tape, and answer some questions for us. Come through, use the television. Who are you? Are you the person that was in Alethea's bed?
Later, reviewing the tapes from this recording session, Rober discovered what he believes is a male voice imploring, please, please. Dr. Roll asks, are these strange electromagnetic effects caused by the haunting, by psychic energy, or by natural phenomena?
Magnetic fields, magnetic energy, can have two effects. It can produce straightforward physical occurrences which may seem really strange, such as floating lights, electrical discharges that will sound like somebody knocking on the door or even footsteps. And then also magnetic energy may interact with the human brain to trigger parapsychological occurrences, so-called psychic phenomena.
Dr. Roll does a complete geological survey of the area first, because he believes that fault zones and rivers can affect electromagnetic fields. He has also found that homes built on a hill are often built on layers of sandstone that can store large amounts of electricity naturally, and that electricity may sometimes be discharged in bursts.
With respect to plenty, this estate, the bedrock is about 2,000 feet down, so that's a substantial distance. We don't feel at this time that we are really dealing with natural sources of magnetic energy, but rather man-made magnetic energy produced by electrical installations, really.
Having excluded geological factors, Dr. Roll begins to investigate electrical features inside the house. He too pinpoints Alethea's bedroom, where Al Rober had recorded EVP earlier.
This is a place in the house where the electric current feeds into the home. So there's a strong magnetic field in that part of the house. The occurrences tend to happen late at night, early morning. These are the times when the human brain is most sensitive to these magnetic fields, and you will then very likely have unusual experiences.
But Dr. Roll found some of his highest readings in Beverly's sewing room.
Now you see here, look at this very high magnetic field, it's very high. Beverly spends most of her working days in a very strong magnetic field produced by her sewing machines. The lights could be simply electric occurrences produced by strong magnetic fields.
There are also high readings in the master bedroom, where several generations of eyewitnesses have seen apparitions, and Beverly's presence seems to be influencing the meter. Al Rober encourages Beverly to ask the questions during an impromptu recording session.
I'd like to ask if you could please give us your name.
After the session, Rober listened to the blank tape and heard what he believes is another communication from beyond the grave.
The whole concept or idea of getting a voice on tape, and it's a room that apparently there's been a lot of activity in, you're starting to build the blocks that you need to come up with a case for a haunting.
But how did Beverly know about this haunting? and this place before she ever moved here.
It's a mystery I would like solved. I would like some conclusion to what's been going on and taking place over the several decades in my life.
Whether the haunting is the result of man-made phenomena, as Dr. Roll postulates, or the result of paranormal forces, as Al Rober believes, Beverly is still left with the vision that has followed her for more than 20 years. So Sightings has asked regression therapist Barbara Lane to work with Beverly, and we've asked psychic Peter James to survey the house.
And the interesting thing now will be if the psychic that comes in to read the house picks up something similar. I think that would certainly be evidential if that had happened.
On the next edition of Sightings, paranormal investigator Peter James will conduct his own survey of Beverly's dream house and attempt to psychically connect the dots in the ongoing mystery of plenty.